Welcome to 2023. Now, I don't want you to get any ideas that this is part of some New Year's resolve to start posting videos on a regular schedule. It's just I think I may have found my favorite read of 2023 already. Although, in the spirit of full transparency, technically I did finish this in December, but after I finished shooting my video, favorite reads of 2022, and it didn't seem right to not include it. So here I am talking about it 2023. This book has been living in my head since I finished it. It's Sugoi Nagamatsu's How High We Go in the Dark, which is a collection of connected short stories. And turns out that is completely my jam. I am otherwise kind of meh on short story collections, but for some reason, if you connect them, then I am fully in. Turns out I love me a sprawling story that follows a disparate set of characters scattered over both time and place that somehow in the end converge to create this complete picture. You have Anthony Doerr's Cloud Cuckoo Land, which I considered an absolutely clutch-worthy read. There's Richard Powers' The Overstory, which was prompted by him moving to the old-growth forests of Tennessee, which meant he had to write a book about trees. There's the Canadian version by Michael Christie called Greenwood, also about the trees. It follows 4 generations of Greenwoods. And the thing is, the book goes back in time, and then at the middle point, the chapters go back forward in time into the future. Anyway, incredible read, well worth checking out. Of course, there is Anthony Marr's absolute stunner, Sorrow of Love and Techno, as well as the big bad granddaddy of them all, David Mitchell's The Cloud Atlas. I think part of the reason I love this is I love beginnings. I love being introduced to the protagonist for the first time, to get a sense of the setting, to maybe understand what the stakes are and what the overall tone of the story is going to take. The table is set and you're awaiting the full meal. And then you do that again with the next chapter and the next and the next. And it rewards attention. You need to find your footing each chapter with a new character in a new place, but still hold on to the previous chapters. You find linkages between characters, little Easter eggs that are scattered throughout that eventually form a larger tableau once you finish the book. Each chapter has so many notes and callbacks. There's so many threads that are woven throughout. And I just think How High We Go in the Dark is an incredible debut novel from Nagamatsu. But this can be one hell of a handsell because it turns out it is a lot. People generally, as we continue to navigate through COVID, not to mention RSV and the flu, do not want to read about another deadly global pandemic. In this case, in the Altai Mountains of Siberia, a 3,000-year-old perfectly mummified little girl that they refer to as Annie is discovered. As a result of global warming, her body is exposed, but turns out she's carrying an ancient pathogen that quickly spreads across the globe. The Arctic plague, as it's come to be known, is especially deadly. The body starts working erratically. Lung cells start working thinking that they're kidney cells. The brain gets to work thinking that it needs to create a heart. The victim's body's organs quickly shut down. Their skin turns translucent, they slip into a coma, and eventually die. And every chapter in this book is a meditation on loss and grief in the midst of this larger pandemic, which frankly sounds like a heaping helping of no. I get it, but this book is not mired in sadness. This thing is all about love and hope and optimism and moving forward. Grief is a powerful thing, but as a wise vibranium synthesoid once said, what is grief if not love persevering? Besides, get over it. Disney has built an entire empire of death. I mean, Nemo, Bambi, The Lion King. Apparently kids love nothing more than have a parent die at the beginning of every story. And the first 10 minutes of Up completely gutting. And there's also loss in a lot of great reads. My favorites of 2022, normie as they may be, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, as well as Lessons in Chemistry, feature some pretty significant losses. And maybe they're favorites because I'm at that age where there's more years behind me than ahead of me, and I can't help but think about my own mortality, to say nothing of that of my parents. Or maybe the pandemic and coming out of that and the almost daily, dry, abstract recitation of rising death tolls. And we look to novels to start humanizing death, to explore the grieving process a little bit, and maybe sit with that for a little bit instead of just noting these death counts and just doom scrolling on to the next thing. So as far as this collection goes, maybe we should be looking at loss as more of a feature, not a bug. And Sequoia does a great, albeit somewhat cynical job of explaining the world in the midst of this global crisis. Of course, capitalism and commercialism find a way. The funerary industry has completely taken over banking, leading to mortuary cryptocurrency. Funerary skyscrapers and malls are ubiquitous across cities across the nation. There are elegy hotels where grieving families are given ample time, as well as sizable suites to mourn the loss of loved ones that are helpfully embalmed and plasticized to preserve them for longer amounts of time as crematoriums struggle to keep up with a massive backlog. Families and tight-knit communities agree to share and earn, intermingle their ashes to save on both space and money. You have robot dogs that hold the treasured recordings of loved ones. And of course, you have euthanasia theme parks like the City of Laughter, where terminal children get a day to enjoy thrilling rides, lovable mascots, and enjoy abundance of treats before their parents strap them into the final roller coasters, climbs high into the sky, descending, eliciting delighted screams from the children before going into a tight loop that renders the kids unconscious and eventually kills them, which, of course, turns out this is based on an actual invention by Lithuanian artist Ulianas Urbonas back in 2010. He called it the euthanasia coaster. It would kill people through cerebral hypoxia or constricting the flow of oxygen to the brain. The roller coaster, again, climbs to an incredible height, 3 times taller than the largest current roller coaster in the world, descending, reaching terminal velocity before going into a tight loop that exerts 10 Gs of force on the body. Smaller loops actually ensure that it's a full 10 Gs of force on the body for the full minute, ensuring that the rider is dead. Now, I'm over-explaining it here. Sequoia is smart enough not to get overly pleased with himself and over-explain a lot of his cynical future. Instead, it's just a little bit of color in the background, little notes that are revealed in subsequent chapters. It gets wild at times, too. There's a chapter about a test subject pig being grown to eventually harvest its organ that suddenly learns how to speak, or a physicist that accidentally implants a black hole into his brain trying to prevent long-distance space travel. But like I said, at its heart, it's about hope and human connection in the midst of a sci-fi pandemic universe. And there's so much bittersweet, and I love me some bittersweet, but it's further complicated by imperfect humans trying to do the best they can, which reminds me of one of my favorite chapters, the Used to Be Party, that features a former lawyer who's lost his wife and daughter to the pandemic, reaching out to his neighbors to invite them for a get-together, a little barbecue. And he admits to being an introvert, hating social niceties, always saying no to every invitation, having some sort of an excuse or another. And he never showed up for anything. He just went to work, kept his head down, let old friendships fizzle, and sort of orbited his friends and his neighbors like a long-distance planet. And he admits he should have been the one that died, as opposed to his more social wife that had time for everyone on the street. What little he knows about his neighbors, he's only learned from his wife, who, while he was off at work, would go and visit the mother down the road to talk about her distant daughter, help another set of neighbors with a bit of coding, or maybe just pop by to finish off a bottle of wine. And now he finds himself hollowed, cracked, and imploding. And he guesses that a lot of his neighbors feel that way too. And he just wants them to know that they are not alone, that he can't do this alone. And he just wants to reach out and try again. And that chapter just gutted me. At the end of the world, it's not the doomsday preppers hoarding canned goods that are going to make it. It's about making meaningful connections, the infrastructure of relationships, building and creating neighborhoods where people work together to get what they need, building abundance from there. So yeah, not all doom and gloom for my favorite read of 2023 that I finished in 2022. Anyway, that's it for me. I hope you had a great New Year's, and hopefully you haven't already borked any misguided New Year's resolutions that you may have made, but frankly, that's on you, because what are you doing making New Year's resolutions in the first place anyway? Anyway, have a great week of reading, and hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.